The first piece of advice I want to give you in this grammar course is don't stress. You're not the only person who hasn't studied grammar since the 4th grade. And why would you? You're probably a native English speaker. You use grammar correctly, automatically. But to be an English teacher, your students expect an explanation as to why we say things one way and not the other. We'll get into all that in this course, but for now, just sit back, watch the videos, and take a few notes if it helps. This course can be done at your own pace, and if you study a lesson or 2 a day, you'll be finished in less than a month. Now, if you've ever learned another language, you know that it's not a linear thing. It's more of a chicken and egg problem. How do you know what to learn first? Vocabulary, tenses, parts of speech? My advice is to go through the course as it's been laid out and then jump around as you need. The information will start to gel, trust me. So first, we're going to take a quick trip back to 4th grade and review some of those parts of speech, just so we're all on the same page. Let's start with a basic sentence. A brown dog jumped clumsily over the gate. Can you identify the nouns in this sentence? Dog and gate. Nouns are persons, places, or things. What about pronouns? Where are the pronouns in this sentence? There aren't any, but we can take one of the nouns, the gate, and replace it with a pronoun, it. Pronouns are I, we, you, they, he, she, it, and there are more too. Pronouns are used to replace nouns. We'll get into those in a bit. What about adjectives? Do you see any adjectives here? Brown. Brown describes the noun, dog. It's not a white dog, it's not a short dog, it's a brown dog. Did you know if you use more than one adjective to describe a single noun, the adjectives go in a certain order? Don't worry, we'll teach you all about it in the adjective order video, so stay tuned. Now what about the verbs in this sentence? Jumped. Jumped is the action taking place. That is the action verb. And what about the adverb in the sentence? The adverb, clumsily, describes how the dog jumped. He didn't jump boldly or nervously, he jumped clumsily. What about the preposition in the sentence? Over is the preposition. Prepositions usually come before a noun and express a relation to another word or element in the sentence. He didn't jump next to the gate, he jumped over the gate. And what about and the? What parts of speech are they? These are articles. Ooh, teacher, I have a question. Why do you use for the dog and the for the gate? Don't worry, we have a whole video about articles, so you can easily explain it to your students. Next, we're going to take a look at sentence structure. English has a very specific sentence structure, unlike a lot of other languages. Let's look at this sentence. I love you. I is the subject. It's the person, place, or thing doing the action. Love is the verb. That's the action. And you is the object. It's the person, place, or thing that's being acted upon. You can remember it this way. You are the object of my affection. Knowing the subject from the object is very important for a lot of reasons. For example, pronouns can be different when they're in the subject or the object. So we say, I love you, but you love me. The first person singular, I and me, are different depending on if it's in the subject or the object. We say, he loves them, but they love him. He and him are different, they and them are different. Again, this is natural for you, but this is something you're going to have to teach your students. Most sentences in English follow this subject-verb-object order. But there are some sentences where the object can actually become the subject, and it changes the verb structure. Don't worry, we go over all of that in our passive versus active video. Let's look at another example. Our boss gave Bob a raise. What's the subject of this sentence? Our boss. And what action did he take? He gave. Now, can you identify the object of this sentence? There are actually two. Bob is the indirect object, and a raise is the direct object. Let's break that sentence down. So, our boss is the subject. He is the person, place, or thing doing the main action. What is the main action? He gave. That's the verb. What did he give? He gave a raise. That's the direct object. And the indirect object answers to whom, or for what, or for whom. That is the indirect object. Can you guess the object in this sentence? There isn't one. She is the subject and runs is the action. It's the verb. So not all sentences have objects. Okay, so I want you to remember the subject is the person, place, or thing doing the action. The verb is the action that the subject is doing. The direct object answers whom or what the subject is acting upon. And the indirect object answers to whom or for what the subject is doing the action. A huge part of your teaching English as a second language has to do with tenses. English has a lot of tenses that don't exist in other languages, so your challenge is to figure out how to teach your students these concepts when there's no direct translation in their language. This course has videos about all the tenses you'll need to teach, but we're going to do a brief overview here. So tenses have to do with when something happened, when the action happened. There are past tenses that happened previous to now. There are present tenses that are happening now, and future tenses happening in the future. So let's look at this one. My sister is in London. That talks about now. That's a present tense. By simply changing the verb, we're talking about a past action. My sister was in London. If we change the verb again, my sister will be in London. Now we're speaking about the future. Most languages have past, present, and future tenses. But English has aspects to those time periods. We have simple tenses, continuous tenses, perfect tenses, and perfect continuous tenses. So let's take a look at what those mean. First, simple tenses. They are used to express actions at a point in time. They are usually complete actions. So for example, we will eat pizza in an hour. We will start this in an hour and it will be complete. It's a simple future sentence. We ate pizza an hour ago. It was the same simple action and it happened in the past. This is a past simple sentence. Continuous tenses are used to represent ongoing actions at a certain point in time. We will be staying in Paris on my birthday. My birthday is the point in time. We will be arriving a few days earlier and leaving a few days after. We will be staying, this continuous action. Was he sleeping when I called? Continuous sentences are used to describe continuous actions that can be interrupted by other actions. He is sleeping now. In this sentence, now is the other point in time. perfect tenses are used to connect two related actions in time. I had finished the report by the time the semester ended. So in this sentence, there are two relevant actions: my finishing the report and the semester ending. By using this past perfect sentence, I'm showing the relationship. I'm showing which happened first. I will have finished the report by the time I graduate. Again, two actions, and they're related in the sentence, and it shows which one will happen first. Perfect and continuous sentences are used to emphasize an ongoing action's duration, and we usually pair it with some description of how long something happened. I have been running for hours. Here we are emphasizing how long I've been running, and this action probably will continue. We'll have been dating for 10 years by Christmas. Here, the speaker is trying to emphasize how long they've been dating. Another thing you're going to need to focus on in each of these grammar videos is the structure of the grammar. It's incredibly important that you know this like the back of your hand so you're never caught flat-footed when you're in a classroom. Don't worry, we'll go over each point in each video. So here's an example. A past perfect simple sentence always has the subject, had, and the past participle, whereas the past perfect continuous always has the subject, had, been, plus the present participle. So when I go over the types of verbs in the coming videos, like past participle and present participle, it's really important that you grasp those because you're going to need that information as you learn the tenses. Don't worry, you can always go back to the verbs video and review. In each video, I'm going to teach you about the function of these tenses. Basically, why do we use one and not the other for different situations? These are questions your students are often going to ask you, so it's important to know. For example, I had been sleeping for hours when the phone rang. Past perfect continuous sentences are used to speak about ongoing events that happened before a past event. So we have an ongoing event of sleeping for hours when the phone rang. This is a past event. It's important to contextualize these tenses in concrete examples for your students so they know when to use what tense. And that's what you need to pay attention to as we go over the functions in each video. You'll also learn the timeline for each tense. And this is helpful as you're explaining to your students. I had been waiting for 2 hours when he arrived. So in this timeline for past perfect continuous, we show the continuous event, I had been waiting, as the long circle, and arrived as the immediate event that interrupted it. If your students are visual learners, timelines will really help them grasp the difference between tenses, so it's important for you to practice them. Okay, like I mentioned, relearning English grammar is much like learning it for the first time. It's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. Don't worry though, you can always go back and review a video if you don't remember what exactly is a past participle. The information is here for you. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you in the next video.